And Ali Vitale, that surprise deal, it's exactly, as was pointed out today, exactly a year to the day since that letter between Manchin and Schumer when they first were trying to get to a deal. It took a full year to get here, and it came together at the end as they're about to hit an August recess, rather surprisingly.
Yeah, truly in the 11th hour, and at a moment where certainly Manchin and Schumer knew what was going on, but most of the senators that I talked to yesterday, right in the aftermath of Manchin announcing that they had a deal, there were shockwaves that were sent through the Senate because most of these lawmakers didn't know there was a deal. They were hopeful for one, but they also didn't know what the details of it was. So last night we saw some of those details begin being released by Senator Schumer's office. Now that bill text is going to the Senate parliamentarian because they need to make sure that this is parliamentarian proof in terms of does it abide by the rules of reconciliation, which is a fancy way of saying does it hit a budgetary bottom line so that they're allowed to do it by this procedural sleight of hand that allows Democrats to go it alone. And that's where the problems begin to start, because while most Democrats that I've spoken to are enthusiastic about this package, there is one person who we have our eyes on, and we have been in this space before. Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, we don't know how she's going to vote on this bill. And I think what's interesting is when I just spoke with Senator Manchin over Zoom, because remember, Andrea, he's out with the coronavirus right now, thankfully well enough to talk to us and clearly well enough to be negotiating this package even as he's home in quarantine. But what he told me is that he has not yet spoken to Senator Sinema. And there's something in this bill, in the tax portion of it, that Sinema has previously drawn a red line on, specifically around closing the carried interest loophole. In the past, in negotiations, she has said that's not something that she wants to do. I asked Manchin if it was something potentially that he would be willing to lose if it meant keeping Sinema on board. He said he wasn't willing to lose that provision, and so now we just have to wait to see what Sinema says, because again, they need all 50 Democrats on this so that Kamala Harris can come in and break the tie and actually pass this.
And when the whole issue of when is it a recession, when is it not a recession, and Gillian Tett, the National Bureau of Economic Research, has the final say on whether or not the U.S. is in a recession. This new GDP report is a bad sign, but it's not definitive, as the White House is pointing out, as Janet Yellen pointed out on Sunday on Meet the Press. The jobs numbers are great.
Exactly. I mean, basically, technically, the definition of recession is 2 quarters of contraction. The problem is that very often the GDP numbers are revised quite significantly. And also right now you're getting these very contradictory signals coming from the economy. You know, the employment data is still very strong. And in many ways, this simply reflects the fact that we're in a very, very, very weird moment in economic history because of the pandemic. There is no precedent for shutting down an entire economy and then trying to start it up again in the middle of geopolitical tensions that are creating all these supply chain problems. So we really don't know how far we can or cannot use history as a guide. The one thing that's crystal clear, though, is that this has made the Federal Reserve's job much harder, because they've just jacked up rates again by 75 basis points. Until very recently, the assumption in the markets was that this was going to continue. What we're now seeing, though, is that investors are repositioning themselves, thinking that maybe next year the Fed will be forced to cut again. And the problem with that is not just that it's very confusing and hard for ordinary consumers and companies to know what to do about that kind of vision for the future. It's also sending out really confusing signals about just how committed the Fed is to trying to crush inflation or not. And, of course, raising concern about the prospect for stagflation, that nasty combination of inflation plus recession that we used to think was very retro 1970s, but is rearing its head again now.
It's a really confusing economic picture indeed. So, Michael Steele, what is the political impact of this spending bill? It's certainly surprising to see Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn, who are masters of the game, get blindsided by this last-minute agreement between Manchin and Schumer.
Yeah, it's actually rather fascinating to watch, and we'll see what the fallout is. There's now a mad shuffle to try to get House members who've already indicated they support this bill to back off of that support, which is a problem, because now you're asking them to position themselves and the party in support of China and against American economic interests and most importantly, national security interests with this chip bill. So they got for the first time in a very long time, the Democrats outfoxed the Republicans, just putting it in raw political terms. And now Republicans are trying to figure out, okay, so what is the reemerging game on this? I really don't see one going into fall national elections unless you're willing to justify handing a win to China. And after all the Trumpian wing of the party has said about that in the past, I don't see that Freedom Caucus going along wholeheartedly with chucking one in the bucket for China.
Well, Sam Stein, it really would be extraordinary, and it is extraordinary to see Senate Republicans urging their House colleagues to vote against something that they supported, the chip bill, at the very time when they've been pushing for a harder line and more competition against China.
Yeah, as Chairman Steele noted, it's an odd position for them to be in. It suggests that they're letting hurt feelings over a process on a separate piece of legislation determine how they vote on policy on a wholly different piece of legislation. I will say it's the first time in recent memory that I can recall that Mitch McConnell seems to have been outmaneuvered procedurally here. They let the CHIPS bill pass and then announced the deal. But it also does strike me as a bit untenable to whip against a bill that you've already come out and support. And keep in mind, there's another piece of legislation still in limbo as well right now, which is a legislation to address veterans who have been harmed by burn pits, which is near and dear to the president's heart. That had passed, but a procedural snafu meant it came to a vote again yesterday in the Senate, and it didn't pass. And so, the question then becomes, will Republicans hold up these two pieces of legislation because they feel burned by the fact that Manchin ultimately came to some sort of climate agreement with Chuck Schumer in the White House?
God forbid there be a climate agreement. Sam, President Obama has tweeted his, praise for the Biden administration's agenda, trying to, really stress this is a big win. And there haven't been that many big wins. Last summer, was a disaster of Build Back Better and waiting forever for progressives and Joe Manchin to get together, which they never did. So this is a win, and President Obama is sounding off on it.
Yeah, and look, it's hard to, every week seems like the make or break week for the White House, right? But in this case, you can see the case that the next 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a little bit more, are super critical for the president. It's not just Build Back Better or whatever we want to call this version. It's the CHIPS bill. It's the burn pits legislation bill. It's Brittany Griner. It's maybe beginning a diplomatic off-ramp with Russia, as you alluded to up top. It's getting those gas prices still to come down. All these things could potentially move in the direction of the president. He needs them to, frankly, if he wants to carry momentum into the fall. And I think what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks, the White House has been pretty passive about these negotiations. They've let Chuck Schumer take the lead. They've, of course, been in touch with Chuck Schumer's office. But my suspicion is that you're going to start seeing the White House get a little bit more involved, trying to close or at least help close a lot of these elements so that when they come back in the post-Labor Day period, they can at least have some momentum and some accomplishments to tout to the voters.
And by the way, you mentioned the burn pit. We'll be talking about that more because that was, from all of the supporters. We've covered this for months and months and years, really. Jon Stewart, John Field, and those 9/11 first responders who got no benefits. Some of them have died since we started interviewing them, and since they've been testifying. And for the last minute, I don't even know how to describe the fact that the cloture vote failed, the procedural vote in the Senate last night after it had been given bipartisan support. Right. Ali Vitale, Carol Lee, Gillian Tett, Sam Stein, Michael Steele, thanks to all of you for starting us off.